Hey, everybody. And so we are back with our second episode of the day for the Raad Life. And I want to talk about something else that's kind of been getting more and more popularity, more and more sophistication. And that is basically CBD, cannabis, hemp. And I've got a gentleman on that we're going to bring on right now, Joel Knoll from Hemp You Can Feel. And what is Hemp You Can Feel? Well, without further ado, let's bring him in from the waiting room and we will find out. Let me get Joel in here. Joel, are you there?
I am here.
Good morning, Joel. How are you?
Good morning.
So I was just saying before I brought you on that one of the things that has been very exciting to watch and sort of be involved in, sort of a little bit on the design side, but is basically this field of CBD, cannabis, hemp, and it's just so evolving so much and getting more and more sophisticated on multiple levels. And so I mentioned that you were with Hemp You Can Feel. And if you wouldn't mind, just what is Hemp You Can Feel?
Yeah, well, Hemp You Can Feel is actually our brand name. And I have been formulating this product for probably 2 years. And I looked at the industry and really noticed that most of the product, mainly we're talking about CBD products,
Yeah.
really didn't do anything in my opinion. And I had a couple of friends, a year and a half ago. Wow, I got some hemp products, and that was back when most people didn't really understand what they were,
Right.
and they, drank the water, the $8 water, and it's like, great. Did you feel anything? What does it do? Oh, I didn't feel anything, but it,
Right.
reduces inflammation or blah blah blah. And after a while, I kind of thought, well, you just spend $8 on a bottle of water.
Hmm.
And then I started researching and realizing that the level of CBD that they have in the water just basically isn't not even in the ballpark of a therapeutic level. And I thought, well, it doesn't do anything. And then I would ask that same friend a few weeks later, hey, do you still drink the water? It's like, no, I don't, I don't drink that stuff. So it was kind of a fad. So
Right.
I just developed this whole philosophy on the market that CBD products might be doing something, but unless people can feel it or have some reaction to it, they're not going to continue to buy it. They might buy it as a novelty. So I started formulating these products. I came up with something that's really fantastic, gave it to some friends, some family members, and they said, wow, I really felt that. So thus
Mm.
the name Hemp You Can Feel. So Hemp You Can Feel is actually the brand name for a
Yeah.
whole series of hemp extracts, and I call them hemp extracts rather than CBD because that
Right.
really applies better. And the company name is actually Cannabis Global, is our company name. We're located downtown Los Angeles.
So the Hemp You Can Feel is basically the brand for the consumables and edibles, basically, right?
Exactly, and
Right.
beverages, yes.
And beverages. So the interesting thing about what you're saying is I couldn't agree with you more. There's, we talk about greenwashing and we talk about stuff that's just, basically brand and label and packaging. And it seems to be that was the case a lot, and that people are getting a little more sophisticated and savvy in terms of what their expectations are relevant to impact, effect, for the different kinds of effect, like, whether it's sleep, anxiety, whatever. Like, you are now being a little bit more demanding of the product and the industry. And so this is right in tune with what's going on, very, very kind of innovative in this field. So let me ask you this, relevant to effect, right? Is it a consistent effect for everybody? Or, I mean, because I hear that people have different tolerances for stuff.
You hit it right on the head there. Really, any compound or anything that is consumed, different people are going to have different reactions. We have different rates of metabolism, different body weights, different body chemistries. So it does affect everyone differently. I have found that about 90%, 85, 90% of the people that have tried it
Mm-hmm.
come back and say, wow, I did feel that. So we did a cocktail party. So we can get into the products, but we're putting this technology into alcohol-free cocktail mixers, right? So I
Interesting.
said, what's the best way to have people try this? And we said, hey, let's host a cocktail party. So
Mm-hmm.
a couple weeks ago, is actually, we really hit the timing right because it was really one of the last group events in the Los Angeles area,
Gatherings.
exactly before we all had a social distance.
Social distance. Yeah.
Right. And so we had, I don't know, 75 people. We rented an entire club, or the bar section of a club. Invited 75 people, and I was really worried that people were going to go in and order regular cocktails because hey, what are these things? These are hemp cocktails. I mean, people didn't really know.
Yeah.
Although a lot of them were our friends and families and business associates. So a couple of people
Yeah.
ordered regular cocktails until someone ordered the first hemp cocktail. And then after that, there were no more regular alcohol cocktails served. And it was, hey, did you feel that? And about 2 hours later, everyone's like, wow, I really feel this. It's like really great. So we actually have on our board of advisors a gentleman that was a senior executive at a vodka company. And he's standing around, and he markets to bars and restaurants and in the industry. He's like, wow, this is a really marketable product. But so the feeling is really a sense of relaxation and well-being. I've had some people say it's similar to consuming a big dose of CBD, where you kind of get a calming effect. One of the keys, and one of the things that I'm trying to communicate to the market, is the difference between our technology and consuming these huge doses of CBD that, someone at the FDA is going to say, hey, we haven't shown that this is safe or effective.
Right.
And the key to our technology is that we can provide that sense of relaxation, that effect, thus the Hemp You Can Feel effect, with ultra low doses of hemp extracts entering the body. And we think that's a revolution in itself.
It is. That's amazing. I mean, I do a lot of work in the spa industry, and I've done so since '98. And to be able to find something that is across multiple product lines potentially, I mean, it sounds to me more like you guys are, yes, you have a product component to your business, but you are a technology company, really.
Ultimately, that's what we want to do. We have now filed for 6 patents on our technology on different aspects of it. And we are coming out with, I call them tactical products, just to show the industry what the technology can do. But we think the exciting thing is to be a technology company to supply this technology to food companies, to beverage companies. And that's what we're working toward.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge. Yeah.
And the other thing is, especially in the California market, I've lived in lots of places in the United States, but the California market is really into products with a pure label, a clean label. And, a lot, it's almost a cliche, but, a lot of trends start in California and then they go through the rest of the country. But you're seeing the rest of the country be very concerned about clean labels also. There are other technologies out there. I don't think anyone feels them, but there are other pretty good delivery technologies out there, but we're the only one that can do it without any chemicals. So we can produce a natural label. We have a unique way to do it that I don't think you're aware of. We can talk about that. But
yeah, I'd love to, whatever you're willing to share. I mean, I don't want to pry into something that's proprietary, but please, yes.
Right. We actually infuse our product with 2 versions of hemp extracts. One version is just not a legacy, but an innovative way that we've been able to get rid of the taste of hemp. A lot of hemp products, you drink them or you eat them and it's like, wow, yeah, it tastes like I'm chewing on a plant or I'm chewing on dirt.
Right.
So we're able to marry the hemp extracts to an organic oil, and that removes the taste. So there's virtually no taste. I can give you a cup of our hemp infused coffee and a regular cup of coffee, and I would challenge you to really tell the difference. I mean, it's 50-50, right? Because there's only 2. Yeah. But if I gave you 5, you're not going to be able to tell me which one has the hemp extracts. So that's our traditional way, and that gives us a number that we can put on our product to say, hey, it has 30 milligrams or 35 milligrams of CBD. However, our belief is we don't even really have to do that because we have a unique water-soluble infusion technology based on bee honey. So the issue here is that hemp extracts and cannabinoids are oils, and our bodies are mainly water. So you get into the how do you make salad dressing issue, right? You put oil and vinegar in it, and you shake it, and then they stay together as a semi-emulsion. But then 5 minutes later, you have a oil slick on top, right? So we have a unique way where we have taken a technology that honeybees are fed cannabinoids, and then they process them through their bodies, and they produce honey with hemp extracts in the honey. Okay. But the amazing thing here is it comes out as a water soluble preparation. So a couple years ago, a whole bunch of hedge funds gave a bunch of Canadian companies tens of millions, maybe over 150 million dollars to develop these water soluble cannabis technologies. But they all had to use either a GMO, genetically modified organism, or they had to use chemical surfactants, chemical agents. And what we're doing is we are taking the honeybee technology that you're letting the honeybee do the work, and it comes out as a water soluble preparation. So you need just a very tiny amount of hemp extract in order to get it into your bloodstream. So basically, what we're doing is we're only giving the consumer a tiny bit, and that tiny bit ends up into the bloodstream.
So let me correct me if I'm wrong, because I've been kind of following this a little bit for a number of years. And am I wrong in remembering that the idea of actually getting bees to the point where they are able to actually extract nectar from cannabis or hemp plants basically is not like an old technology? This is something that somebody actually came up with a few years recently. Like they got the ability to train the bees to do this. Am I wrong in this? I thought I read an article where this was something that was kind of difficult to do, and then somebody actually had a breakthrough in how to do it.
There are some stories out on the internet, and there's a couple of videos, and there's a couple of photos out there. I believe that's a fraud. And when you click on those, people just absolutely blast that. The bees will not, get onto a cannabis plant and do to a cannabis plant what they do to a flower or to, clover or something like that. So I think that's fraudulent.
And thank you for clarifying that. I wasn't sure, because it sounds amazing to have an organically based product rather than one that isn't, as part of this process. It makes a world of difference.
It's a world of difference. It's a world of difference in the label and the safety of the product, in my opinion, for two reasons. One is there are literally no chemicals in it. But bees are very sensitive, right? So we have colony collapse syndrome, and scientists aren't really sure why. But the main theory is it's pesticides in the environment. So it's kind of like the old thing, like a canary in a coal mine, right? I mean, they used to have birds in coal mines, and if the oxygen went down, the bird died. And if the bird died, you better run out real quick.
Heed the warning, right?
Heed the warning. Bees are heed the warning, right? So any pesticide, any chemical that gets into the bee feeding honey production system will basically kill the bee, and they won't eat it. They won't touch it. If they do, they immediately just die. So, I mean, it's a real test, plus honey has a kind of a purity thing, but we just use such a tiny bit of the bee honey preparation. And then what we've done is we've invented a couple of alternative technologies where we have powderized it and we have put it into like a tablet, right? So in our coffee pods, for example, we filed a patent on a tablet that goes in the coffee pod. So what a lot of coffee manufacturers are doing is they're taking the little K-cup, right, that goes in your Keurig machine.
Yeah, I just put up the picture for people to see. That's
it's right there. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And then they're just spraying, cannabis oil in there, and that, yes, does it pass a test? And can they say it has 30 milligrams of CBD? Yes, but you're basically just putting oil into your water-based
you're just topping it with. It's not really infused.
Right. It's not infused at all. Right. Yeah. So what we've done is we've taken the bee honey technology, we've converted it into a powder, and then we converted it into a little tablet. Think of an aspirin. So now the manufacturer just throws the little tablet that's about a little bit bigger than an aspirin in their coffee pod. They put the coffee on it. On top of it, they cap it, and it stays fresh and nice and nitrogen infused. And that's another patent that we filed on that. So,
and are those Joel? Are those K-pods basically available through your website yet, or is it just not on market yet?
We just launched them at hempyoucanfeel.com. It's first of all, you have to have good coffee, right? So we started with South American beans that are imported directly into the facility where we're located. They are roasted and ground under our supervision right there and packaged right on site. We also package them. If you notice those pods there, they look a little bit different.
Yeah.
That's because they're compostable pods. So,
Ah,
you know, they,
well done.
yes, coffee pods are a huge source of pollution, right?
Yeah.
I mean, far more than drinking straws, right? You know, and we're
Mm-hmm.
here in Southern California, and you know, try to get a plastic drinking straw, right? You might as well.
Mm-hmm.
They might arrest you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but you know, coffee pods are far worse polluters than plastic straws because a lot of them end up being incinerated, according to Greenpeace. So these, you throw them in the landfill. 120 days later, they're gone.
So let me ask you something, because I'm a scuba diver. I'm very conscious of plastics, and I try to avoid them as much as possible. I mean, not to the point where I'm going to arrest somebody in California, but you know, I try to avoid them as much as possible, and that's one of the reasons I actually, the flavor of the K-pods to begin with most of the coffee out there not being of a quality, and I'm a little bit of a snob when it comes to my coffee. I stopped doing K-pods. And so to hear about that fact that there's an interest and a conscientious effort to put in quote quality coffee, that's strike, you know, one in your favor right away, right? The fact that they're biodegradable is another one in a way. But let me ask this. You tend to do like a French press in the morning, and I grind my beans every week, and there's, you know, enough for 2 days or something because I'm really anal about it. And I'll do my French press. What you're talking about with the little tablet, that, if I, am I mistaken that that could actually be added to something even as simple as a French press?
Yes, you could throw it in a French press. You could throw it in. You know, we're gonna put them into the tea bags coming up, and it dissolves. Boom, it dissolves right away. Now, there's other technologies out there that people have tried to market, and I know this because I go out and I meet with the people who are actually have a huge factory that are putting coffee into pods and sealing them. You know,
Mm,
hundreds a minute or thousands a minute,
a
and the
minute, yeah.
technologies are really very rudimentary. One of the problems with coffee, you're probably grinding your own beans, right?
I am.
Yeah. One of the
Acid-free French
yeah.
roast, yeah.
So there are some coffee beans out there, or even ground coffee, and again, they're just spraying some cannabis oil on the. You know, so
Yeah.
it's a very low quality. Plus, it tastes funky when you do that, right? I
That
mean,
absolutely correct. And when you said that about the infusion, where to basically you can't tell the difference. Anybody who's actually done product that has you know, CBD in it, or you know, in many cases, the attention or the diligence, I think, from the product manufacturer is not tight enough. I mean, what you're describing is enjoyment of the cup of coffee, but having the quote unquote feeling that you're going to get from it that is specific to your brand. Well, that's amazing. I mean, that's wonderful. And then the cocktail idea, brilliant. I
yeah.
mean,
Thank
brilliant.
you. Well, see, it's interesting because what I wanted to do is come up with an alternative, and we're getting ready to launch this, an alternative to alcoholic beverages, right?
Hmm.
And you know, I'm getting older now, and when I was younger, I used to like to, you know, have a beer and relax.
Yeah.
But now, as I've gotten older, having one or two beers, I'm wiped out. I can't do it, right? And then so it's like, you know, you're gonna, you know, you can't go out for a cocktail, have a couple cocktails. You know,
Right.
maybe one is easy, two, but three, you're wrecked the
Oh
next
yeah.
day.
Yeah.
You're gonna affect the
Absolutely.
next day. So
Yeah.
the Hemp You Can Feel cocktail infusers is a total relaxation feeling. Now, the coffee is interesting because you have the caffeine of the coffee kind of fighting in a way with the
Right.
relaxation of the CBD. And I don't want to be relaxed in the morning. I want to get going. That's one of the reasons I drink coffee. But
Right.
it's an interesting feeling to have a little bit of, hey, I'm kind of mellow, but I'm also a little bit amped up on the coffee. So it's
You know, Joe,
interesting.
I'll share this with you because like I said, I grew up overseas. I was telling you that I grew up overseas before we got on the air. And you know, when I saw the pictures that you have on there, I found it very fascinating because you got the K cups on one side and you got like basically a Turkish or Arabic. You know, people are going to shoot me for getting the wrong nationality association with this, but Turkish coffee brewer. And I remember growing up where we had the strong, you know, little demi-tasse coffee, and in the morning it had a particular effect. In the evening or after a dinner, you still had it. I mean, people will tell me, wait a minute, you drink that at night and you go to sleep? And I'm like, yes. So again, I think there's a lot to do with how you associate with a product.
Hmm.
So the coffee K-pods with that in them, depending on the time of day that you have them, and not every morning do I want to be amped like crazy. I might want to have a slightly gentler, wake up. But I really love the idea of this and the fact that it is so wide open to what you could incorporate it in. What's going on with your timeline as far as the cocktails and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, well, the cocktails are get ready to roll out, but just to address one other point of putting anything in there,
Yeah.
um, in the cannabis plant, we've all heard about THC. That's the
Hmm.
psychoactive component, and most of us have heard about CBD because that's kind of everywhere.
Yeah.
But those are the two major cannabinoids in the plant. There's 100 others. There's like 105 others, and I think they just
Hmm.
discovered a couple more, 2 weeks ago.
Hmm.
Right. So what we're doing is we're experimenting with some of the minor cannabinoids in
Smart.
order to put those in there. So, for example, we just announced THCV, as in the V stands for Varin, which is like a derivative, um, a little bit different chemical structure of THC, non-psychoactive, but supposedly it is a weight loss agent.
Oh,
And
interesting.
there's others like CBN that are a sleep agent, right? So what we
Hmm.
want to do is use some of those in order to do some studies. Does it really suppress appetite? Does it really
Hmm.
help with weight loss? So we
Hmm.
actually just announced a mouse study for that, where we
Hmm.
are going to be using THCV in a mouse study we're basically going to get fat mice and give them, this minor hemp cannabinoid,
Yeah.
and monitor them and see if they lose weight. So there's a whole bunch that can be done on that with not just CBD.
Well, to Joel, so it's again, like I said earlier, it sounds like you guys are more of a technology company and definitely an innovator and an trailblazer. And when it comes to this, and your focus on those minor ones, I mean that is actually amazingly smart business because you're literally applying blue ocean theory where you're basically everybody's fishing in the same pot, same things with THC and CBD, and you guys are looking at other fishing grounds. What can you give me a little background? I mean, I'm really fascinated by this and the fact that the way you guys are going about it. Can you give me a little background about the people either involved or like you really sound like more of a technology um, sort of lab kind of R&D company. Can you give me a little bit more background just in terms of credibility on this?
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what we want to do. Is we are focusing on the core research. We've developed some really nice technologies internally, and then we've collaborated with a couple of our partners to capitalize on what they've developed using their products and then enhancing those. And then based on that, we've already filed 6 patents. We probably have 3 more that we're working on right now.
Hmm.
Ultimately, we want to show the industry and show the consumer that these things we invented can be put into products. That's why we've come out with the coffee and the cocktail mixers and all that. We
Right.
don't want to be ultimately a brand company where we're out there marketing Hemp You Can Feel coffee. We want to be able to give that core technology to coffee manufacturers. We
Right.
want to give the alcohol-free relaxation Hemp You Can Feel version to an alcohol beverage company. We're talking to a couple already in the Midwest that want to put
Right.
it into a beer and other things like that. Now, you have a very sticky regulatory environment there that we
Sure.
have to navigate. But ultimately, we want to get the patent portfolio up to probably 10 or 11 or 12 patents, show the industry, and then hopefully leverage that in order to be a technology provider to the food and beverage
Well, that's
industry.
part of the growing pains of being an innovator and an early trailblazer. I mean, the regulations are playing catch up. The awareness to the level and detail that you guys have, when it comes to regulatory agencies, I would not be surprised if you guys are basically in the position where you have to basically educate them in order for them to be able to see what you guys are trying to do. So, kudos to you for being in that space, and I think it's super smart business to do it with the approach that you guys are doing versus be very specific to a particular being a product company to do it the way you guys are doing it. It's amazing. It's very,
Yeah,
very impressive.
the regulation is way behind. Um,
Yeah.
the farm bill that Mitch McConnell was so kind to get through
Yeah.
was designed to really get this industry going. Well, the problem with that was that the Farm Bill is in direct odds with the FDA stance. And that's a major problem. So what we want to do is, what we think we have the ability to do is even go to the FDA or go to a major manufacturer that is
Mm-hmm.
afraid of the FDA. These big food and beverage companies are afraid of the FDA. They want to come out with
Mm-hmm.
CBD products, but like, we cannot do it. Our lawyers will not let us do it because of this, a gray area of
Mm-hmm.
legality of
Mm-hmm.
regulatory concern. So what
Mm-hmm.
we want to do is we want to show the industry, or we might even want to just kind of flip it and say, we agree. People shouldn't consume CBD. Now, that sounds like a ridiculous stance for us, but I believe what I can show is product A from another company has 50 milligrams of CBD, and 0.1% is going to get into your bloodstream. So where's the other 49.85% go? Well, it goes to your liver, Mr. Consumer, and let your liver deal with it, right? That's
Right.
what the FDA is, one of the concerns the FDA has. I believe
Right.
we can show the industry, hey, use our preparations, and what you get is water, completely, truly water soluble, and it gets
Mm-hmm.
into your bloodstream right away. We're not going to give you the other 49.85 milligrams of hemp extracts or CBD, because you don't need them. They don't do anything, right?
Right.
And so I think that what we will end up doing is we will convince, maybe not a huge manufacturer, but a moderately sized manufacturer that's willing to really kind of
To
stand
take the
up and,
chance, kind of, yeah. Mm-hmm.
exactly, to take the chance and say, hey, this is a better form of hemp extract here, and that's
Well,
what we think we have.
it's definitely, look, it's definitely, what is it? Fortune favors the bold. I think there's a certain truth to that in this, and yes, the regulations are really way behind. It's fascinating to watch this, because that being said, there is no putting the genie back in the bottle on this one. There's way too much money involved. There's way too much potential financial reward involved. There's way too much potential for innovation involved, and it is a wide open frontier. So you're going to have the good, the bad, and the ugly to look at it. But when you have somebody like you guys that are basically approaching it the way you're approaching it, putting your research and R&D and data behind it, it's gonna, it's sluggish, but hey, you got one product on the market, you got another one potentially coming, and like you said, as California goes, so goes the nation. So I'm really excited, and thank you so much for taking the time today to share this with me, because I can't wait to get this podcast put out there today. I think everybody should be aware of this. How can people find out more about you guys? Is there any contact information you can share, Joel?
Sure. Just go to Hemp You Can Feel, hempucanfeel.com, and take a look at the website. There's links there to our corporate website where they can go look up at the company, look at our press releases, look at what we've said about the technologies. We're working on some videos right now, and I don't think you have to be a fringe radical label, product food label watcher,
Right.
to understand the concept. I think anyone can understand it. Which would you
Right.
rather consume? A product made in a laboratory with surfactants and chemicals, or one that's made by honeybees?
Yeah.
I think you'd have a 99%. You get 99% of people to agree on that, and pretty difficult to get 99% people to agree on the day of the week.
So the design and the logo stems from the beehive.
That is actually kind of the chemical, diagram of CBD, I believe.
Yeah.
And we kind of wanted to show, hemp you can feel. Well, I think that just hits it right on the head, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I think people look at it and go, wait a second, I got to click on that. What do you mean hemp you can feel?
Yeah.
So that's that, thus the name there. So.
Well, it made me do it, and it's great. And again, thanks, Joel, for being on today and sharing that. And again, everybody that's out there, whether you are a craft beer manufacturer or whatever, and there's a lot of them in Southern California, you need to check out Hemp You Can Feel. You need to find out about what these guys are doing. They're definitely blazing a trail here in this industry that's just ripe for that kind of innovation. And so thanks again, Joel, for joining. Come back, be on the show anytime. Let us know what's going on. And again, if you guys have K machines here, you go get those pods. They're available at hempucanfeel.com. So I know I'm going to go get myself some, although I got to dig out my K machine, my machine out of the garage to do that, Joel. So if you get any chance to develop something that can go into my French press, just let me know.
Well, I'm going to drop into the mail some K-Cup pods. You're going to have to lower your coffee standards a little bit. And then I'll also send you the sample of the Hemp You Can Feel cocktails. You can try those in the evening with some ice.
I would love that. We will. I'll be sitting right here. I might even have you back on, and maybe we'll toast up a few on the air and tell people about it again. Thank you so much. Yeah, let me know as soon as you have that out, Joel. I'd love to have you back on to talk about it.
Great. Thank you for having me on.
Have a great day. Thanks, Joel. Thanks. Everybody.